it's so much more work than you think it's going to be to get something up off the ground and going.
I think some of the things that we went through are just the nature of the beast of opening the doors and making sure you have adequate product on the shelves, that your equipment in the coffee side is working.
Then you have the outside challenges. Working through my father's illness and then his passing. And then I was also given the diagnosis of breast cancer. At the same time, we were trying to open a store and go through the challenges of burying my father. And it was a lot. It's through the perseverance and the help of others that we were able to do all of this all at one time. It's a challenge all by itself, starting a brick and mortar business, but then we had all those other challenges.
Thank you for listening to the Guys Who Do Stuff podcast. Visit guyswhodostuff.com. You probably shouldn't Google that.
Welcome to the Guys Who Do Stuff podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Josh.
Welcome back, Josh.
Thank you, Joe. It's good to be back.
Yeah, I had to go pick him up because his ankle's hurt. Tore ACL on a driving ankle.
Let's fact check that. It's a ruptured Achilles tendon.
Well, I've been saying torn ACL, so that's what it is now.
Joe. Wake Orthopedic has been great, and I'm on the recover. So Joe did pick me up this morning and brought me here to the studio.
Yeah. So this is the show where helping get unstuck, tell a better story, and have a good answer to the question, what are you doing today? And today, we're excited. We got Gerry and Beth Martinez de Andino, which is, your name makes me sound exotic, cool just to say it out loud. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys are the owners of Our Moments in Time.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Our Moments in Time.
All right. Well, it's basically a small retail and coffee shop that we opened up in downtown Holly Springs. We serve 30 artisans at the moment in the facility, local artisans. And our coffee shop is proud to serve Dilworth Coffee out of Northeast Raleigh. We actually even have like to call it our dairy farm, which is a homeland creamery out of Julian, North Carolina, on your way to Greensboro and right outside Solder City.
Not only are you a great local place to get a fantastic gift or to go shopping for someone that you care for, but you guys have found a way to also support a bunch of other local artisans. That's pretty amazing.
Yes.
So it's like local plus Dilworth Coffee plus local.
Yes. And we're all local.
That was the model and the strategy and the objective. We wanted to be really a store that served the community and was part of the community, of bringing the residents and the local community of Holly Springs together with their own artisans.
What was the origin story for your business?
The actual beginning of this has to do with something that Beth first came up with when we were in Wisconsin. And she worked and found this little jewel called Bungalow by the Bay and worked there for a number of years. And that gave her the inspiration to want to do something along those lines, boutique and serving the community. And it's been something percolating in the background. Gosh, for the last 15 years, maybe.
When did you guys move from Wisconsin to this area?
2008.
2008, during the housing crisis, when everybody was changing everything.
Exactly.
That is, yes. Wow. Yeah, we actually managed to get to leave Wisconsin right at the precipice before everything went off the cliff.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then moved here and lived through it.
I was in Kenosha probably from like 2002 to 2006, somewhere in there. They had drive-up liquor stores, which I thought was the weirdest thing.
That's because of the cold weather.
It's the cold weather. Yeah,
nobody wanted to get out of their car.
Yeah, that was one of the happiest moments, man, selling my snowblower when I moved.
Oh, gosh.
You gave that person a deal. Like, you can have that thing. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
We moved down here and thinking, okay, snow will never be something that we'll ever run across again. And I think our first year there, we actually used our snow shovel.
Well, people
like
made
6
fun
inches.
of us because we brought our snow shovel with us.
So I like talking to fellow people that have lived up north where snow is, like I will say, real. Mm-hmm. And now when it snows like a half inch here, they're like, shut it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or it might snow. Cancel school. I
have great memories of snow, though, because growing up in the Piedmont of North Carolina, you get the right amount of it where you have school out for maybe a week and you play in it and it doesn't melt. And we didn't have snow blowers, we just enjoyed it.
And what was it about Bungalow by the Bay that made you think, man, I want to do something like this?
Well, it was a cute little quaint store and chocolate shop. And it was family-run business and just laid back and easygoing and very connected to the community. Yeah. And it was in, I don't know if you remember Cedarburg, Wisconsin, but that's a historical small town. And I just love the feel of it. And I wanted to capture that feel again.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of that feel in downtown. It seems like there's this little tight-knit community down there of businesses.
Holly Springs is going through a renaissance now of creating its downtown spirit. I think Apex has been very fortunate that it's had one for, from the beginning, right? Because how long has the downtown of Apex been there?
Yeah.
In contrast to what Holly Springs is doing right now.
In Holly Springs, all we had downtown in the village district were homes. Mm-hmm. And so Holly Springs had to be built. Their downtown had to be built because it was all residential.
That's nice because you'll have modern plumbing and modern other stuff in the commercial stuff. I mean, well, you guys are an exception because you took something old and made it new again, right? As far as the structure. Can you talk a little about that?
It was built in 1880, was handed down generation after generation in the Williams family. And the granddaughter and grandson are still living in Holly Springs. They're pretty excited with what we've done.
I'm familiar. You said Williams family, right? Mm-hmm. You have Williams Street through Apex, right? It's like a major. Does that go into Holly Springs?
That I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting. You have 100 years ago, this was just the Williamses and the Kildares, right? This area, all these farms.
How long have you guys been open?
6.5 months.
We opened up on June 23rd, and we actually weren't there for the actual opening. We had to leave to go to Michigan.
My father passed away the day we opened.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And we had to rely heavily on our older daughter, Nicole, as well as lots of friends, and picked up the ball and ran with it. And we couldn't have done it without him.
I'm curious as to what got you guys to the point where this had been a dream that had kind of been planted in the back of your mind, it sounds like, for a long time. What was about now that made you guys want to make it a reality? What were you guys doing in the meantime before you had opened up your store?
Real estate. We're both real estate agents.
And we still are both involved in real estate. Part of it was a journey in that we were trying to find, we went from trying to do something that Beth had as a dream, which is the Bungalow by the Bay model that we came here with. But on an entrepreneurial basis, we wanted to be able to know that we had the right location, that we had the right product lines that would serve the audience that we're trying to serve. So we were doing a lot of market planning and thinking through. And in the meantime, all that was going on, it began to take on new shapes because we met people. Beth actually got together with a person who, at the time, was the president of the Arts Council for Holly Springs. We met her as a result of volunteering at the high school marching band. She has this meeting as a result of being a fellow parent, a volunteer, and find out about all the artisans in Holly Springs and all of the ups and downs that community was going through. And so the idea got planted of, instead of having a product that's manufactured perhaps overseas or somewhere outside of North Carolina, what about the local aspect of supporting artisans here? And that began a network process of Beth meeting with all of these artisans and starting to do the homework about what would make sense, what would the community respond to as far as a locale for the artisans to show their craftsmanship.
And the more I met with them, the more excitement was drawn up. And during that process, I just thought, by chance, I'll talk to economic development and see if there's any location that makes sense. And lo and behold, there was. And I mean, through a lot of back and forth, we actually hung up the phone and she called me back 5 minutes later and said, I've got it. it was all so smooth. It just all fell into place.
Wow.
From the minute we started talking about it till now. I mean, there were bumps.
Yeah.
You know, the road's never straight, right?
I love you guys' model, and I can't think of anything like as a comparison point of having all locally sourced artisans provide the inventory for your store. That's pretty cool. After that light bulb went off, did you find anybody else that you could kind of mirror it after, or is this a pretty unique thing?
Well, the perfect piece in Gerry.
Oh, okay. That's in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
See, I've never been in there. I just always saw it back there.
Similar.
It's like looks like it's still a bank because it was obviously a bank at one point. That's the place. Okay.
The difference between the perfect piece and us is, well, number one, the size, but we're trying to keep our list of artisans unique.
Have 3 or 4 artisans that have the same product or the same kind of artwork, and try to give everyone an opportunity as much as possible, as well as the community coming in and seeing a wider array of artwork and craftsmanship.
But then we also wanted to combine it with coffee because we thought, what a nice feel.
Yeah.
You come in the door and you're surrounded by all this beautiful merchandise, and you can just come and get that nice warm cup of coffee and just take your time and walk around and just have that.
This is where I like to brag on you, is that you guys have a state-of-the-art espresso machine that makes multiple espressos at the same time, and you can make breves and cortadas and all these espresso drinks. And there's a vibe there that's really special in terms of just the coffee shop experience. It's the opposite of Starbucks. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm in somebody's home, you know?
Right.
We didn't want to be a coffee shop. We didn't want just to be a retailer. We wanted it to be an experience, a downtown experience that sort of brought the home to downtown, you know, hometown, and people would come in, and there'd be a social aspect to it as well. In fact, to the point where some of the customers that come in know the artist, and the artist, so it's like greeting family in some respects, you know, feel comfortable.
Down to the rocking chairs on the front porch.
Correct.
Gerry, can we have a sexy voice contest?
I feel like he's got you beat, man.
Oh, man. Finally, I met my
I'm
match.
trying hard to pay attention, and I'm just thinking about how cool his voice sounds.
I'm seeing an old Fabio novel that's being narrated.
I think you're striking on a chord that I personally like. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, my kids are getting older. I don't know what it is. But there's just so many more kind of like chain experiences, and you see more and more of the box stores that are kind of closing down depending on what part of the city or what city you're living in. And shopping has changed so much. And when I remember liking about shopping when I was young, I think about like the best shopping experience is Christmas, right? Going out and picking out gifts. So that's kind of like, in my mind, the best use of shopping. You're going out and you're picking a gift for somebody, and you're in the right mindset. You're in the right, like, you can't just go Christmas shopping and be in a bad mood. That's not the way you do it. You're looking for the unique stuff. What you guys are describing as shopping is what I hope is going to be the trend in the future, that the ones that make it are going to be the ones that focus on the experience.
People really want the story behind what they're purchasing. Oh, who made this?
Right.
Why did they make this? We, for instance, Simple Roots is one of our artisans, and they're from Fuquay, and they take local wood, mostly barn wood, and repurpose it. And so she has a story behind everything she creates. Oh, this came from, for instance, we have barn doors. The wood from making those doors came from a barn near Friendship High School, and it's cherry wood. And that's because that's what they had on their property when they needed to build that barn. So then they were putting it in the high school. They called her and asked her to come and take down the barn.
So I started seeing that a couple of years ago, even on like the renovation shows. They'll always save something from the house and use it in the new house and maybe repurpose it. And then that's the focal piece. I would always prefer to know a little bit more about the stuff that I buy. It makes it more interesting. It makes it...
And personal.
It makes it very personal, yeah. What other kind of artisans do you guys work with?
We have everything ranging from pottery, apparel, for both the children's clothes and...
Embroidered. We have a quilter. Brenda is a pen and ink artist. We have photographers, Josh.
Hello, everyone.
Josh is one of our photographers.
Josh, you got some of your stuff up in there, right?
The mayor, Dick Sears, actually picked up a piece for his wife for Christmas. I have a couple pieces there and real thankful for that.
That's another thing that makes us a little more unique. is that they purchased this piece of art from you, but they wanted the story behind it.
That's right.
And
I love how this story came together. I was telling Joe about it earlier. The photo was of a missionary in Africa in a special moment. That piece was appreciated, purchased. The mayor asked for the story. As I was writing the story, I fact-checked it with the attorney friend of mine who I went to Africa with. Turns out the missionary and his wife were in town for 12 days. They all came together for a meeting at our Moments in Time at the coffee shop. And that to me was really special to hear that was happening there. Even though I was laid up after surgery, I couldn't make it. But to know that that space is a place where people can come together and build new relationships.
And I bet that story gets shared every time somebody asks them about that piece in their home.
Absolutely. Yes.
There you go.
Yep. It does.
Score.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit more about the story about how you guys opened our Moments in Time.
I was saying, we come from Wisconsin. We started to develop the dream as we knew it then. And in the midst of all that, God has a funny way of introducing new opportunities and new direction. And that's how we met with Brenda. We go down the road of supporting artisans. It's easy to say and roll out, but to get there was quite a journey, getting that home approved to go from an 1880 residence to commercial zoning. Well, the fact that the house was kept in its original shape as much as possible and had the same character of the house, that led to the house becoming approved. The coffee idea was an inspired moment, but we were going to have someone else come in and do that. But that took us about 3 different times to attempt to get the coffee partner model to work, and 3 times it didn't. We finally decided we're going to do this. It's going to be done, so we did it ourselves. So we went from thinking we were going to be strictly dealing with retail to now trying to understand how to make coffee,
right,
and do it in a way that the public and the community would say this is a really good experience. So we were blessed because we met, we think, with a phenomenal roaster, and we got training and education. So it's been wonderful.
It's been a leap of faith.
So now that it's open, what have you guys learned?
Planning is huge. You can't just create a dream and say, okay, I'm going to do this. Start talking to people, open your doors and start. You really have to have a great plan. And we went through a program called Launch Holly Springs. It's a fantastic program for entrepreneurs who are looking to either start a business or improve on a business that they already have. You have to understand your market, and you have to understand your product, and you have to project 5 years out, 10 years out. You know, there's a lot more to it.
What were some of the key lessons you guys think you took away from Launch Carry, other than planning?
Focus was the first word I come, because there's so many things, there's so many moving parts to look at. One can get lost, and to the point where you sort of get paralyzed by how much you have to take and consider. Just focus on the 2 or 3 essential items that make or break what you're trying to accomplish, and make sure you know what those are and have the persistence to always go back to them and do them well.
Yeah. What's the number one focus of our Moments in Time?
Attention to detail and service.
Service, for sure.
Because whatever we do on a daily basis always translates to how it's being viewed by the person walking in the door.
So I assume you two work there sometimes. Do you have other employees that work there?
We live there.
That was another learning curve. We were told by those Launch Holly Springs being classified as a mentor that one of the things you want to do before you have an employee is know and understand the business yourself and do everything yourself, no matter how menial. It doesn't matter, because when you finally hand the keys over to someone else to run, something is going to happen, and you have to answer the question, how do I solve this? And you may not be there. So you need to be able to have experienced it, to be able to talk to it and train someone well.
What are some of the values that you guys, as you're training other people, like this is what we're about? What are those values that kind of keep it moving forward for you guys?
I think an important thing is to value people. Doing the coffee or showing them product, that's just all part of providing a good feeling and being family almost.
We're there every day. But for instance, we're here right now. So we have our daughter, Alicia, as a barista. And then we have one of our jewelry artisans from Dangle My Wares. She's there. And when you have a family member or you have one of the artisans or we have, there is that kind of passion that they need. You can't just hire somebody off the street that you don't know and expect that they're going to have that same passion.
They have a vested interest, right?
They
want
do.
You guys to continue to be successful.
They do. And so that works. The passion's there. That's what it's about. You have to have the passion.
This show is produced at Podcast Gerry, a professional studio making podcasting simple and fun. Located in Vibe Co-working in Gerry, North Carolina. Want to start a podcast to create great content for your business and establish yourself as a thought leader in your city? Go to podcastgerry.com. Connect with your audience. Grow your brand. Josh and I have talked to a lot of people, and one of the common topics that have come up is the challenges for brick and mortar businesses in starting. In today's landscape and starting a brick and mortar, what would you say to people that are exploring the idea of opening up a brick and mortar business?
It's hard. It's a dedication, and you really do. Once again, I'm back to passion. You have to have the passion and the drive and the persistence, like Gerry was saying, because you're married to it.
Yeah,
it's your other life.
Numbers are important, dollars are important, but you have to instill that the most important thing are the people you're serving. Serve those in a manner that they'll come back even just for the experience. Not necessarily for a specific product, just to come back.
You mentioned several times how it's more difficult. And I think that's one of the things that we always hear when we chat with people who are starting up. And I started my company in January. And so Podcast Gerry, the room that we're sitting in here, is even newer than that. And there's the lesson I keep learning over and over again is it's so much more work than you think it's going to be to get something up off the ground and going.
I think some of the things that we went through are just the nature of the beast of opening the doors and making sure you have adequate product on the shelves, that your equipment in the coffee side is working.
Mm-hmm. Then you have the outside challenges that play a part into the business side. Working through my father's illness and then his passing, and then I was also given the diagnosis of breast cancer at the same time we were trying to open a store and go through the challenges of burying my father. And it was a lot. And it's through the perseverance and the help of others that we were able to do all of this all at one time. It's a challenge all by itself, starting a brick and mortar business. But then we had all those other challenges. It just,
Have you guys always been good at receiving help from other people? Is that a challenge for you?
Yeah, major. And this year, it was hard to imagine. It was a few days before opening, and we knew that something was amiss with her dad, but not ever expecting what occurred. And then literally within 48 hours of it happening, being able to depend on totally the community and our daughters and friends and leave just when we're opening. And we basically had to have faith and trust that it would work. And I think that's an essential part of it all too. Having that faith and trust, which is where I think you get the tenacity and the persistence to stick it through, regardless of the obstacle that comes up in front.
Yeah.
Those will never stop. There will always be an obstacle. There will always be a bump in the road, but you have to plow through it. You got to get to the other side.
We were sticking to the plan, and those that were there helping us knew the plan.
Yeah.
And everything was in place that needed to be in place.
We had done our first business plan too, that she's speaking about 5 years before we actually got to this particular model. So it was a plan that kept changing. We kept changing and modifying it and upgrading it and enhancing it. But it was always a plan that we could follow.
Right.
So that was essential too.
You got to trust the process. And I think that's another way of saying like having faith. Like it's going to work. The plan is good. You got to trust the process. Are we going to stick with it or are we not going to stick with it? And talk about a lot to overcome before you guys opened up.
Sure.
And
sure
so
feels like it.
You had family pitching in, and then I assume the Artisans pitched in.
Absolutely.
Anybody else help pitch in?
The community, in fact, her oncology nurse is helping. Wow. So it's been a community effort. And that's why we're so happy that we're able to give back to the community by making this really a community environment for them, an experience for them.
Yeah. That's got to feel fantastic, I guess, in one sense, to know that the big part of the why behind it was to be actively involved in the community, be a part of the community, provide a place for artisans in the community, and then to have the community get so behind you, even to the point to help out the way that they did, has to be a really good feeling.
And I think the other exciting thing actually is that we were, one of the first to be on that main street, as a retail shop.
Holly Springs was like a boom town. Everybody was like, I remember forever ago, like 8 years ago, it's like, where should you buy a house? Holly Springs, man. You get so much house out there. Go to Holly Springs. And everybody was moving out there, and they got all the houses out there before they had the downtown. But in 200 years from now, when they're doing the Holly Springs downtown, whatever, you guys could be one of the founding people in that story.
Yeah, that's fun. And we try to remain active in our own community outside of business as well. And just always keeping that connection. The other reason why this model works is because we're local, supporting local. And when the community comes in and you purchase from us, you're supporting your neighbors in your community. They're taking their earnings and they're putting it back into the community. And so in a way, we're self-sustaining.
Yeah. You certainly hear a lot more about shop local now. And I know, just personally, like, I just wish everything was more local. And I mentioned before, even to the point of like where I like to go out to eat. Like, I like to know who it is so I know who I'm supporting. And I wish people would make decisions like that more. How do you kind of get people to value that sense of community? Do you guys feel like the community, the business owners in Holly Springs, are they a strong tribe? Is everybody?
I think so. Well? Yes. And I think we have a very strong chamber group, where these businesses are part of, and it's a constant trying to reinforce, the small business community.
Yeah.
And there's constant opportunities, ribbon cuttings and breakfast meetings and whatnot, just to give sort of a support each other. Mm-hmm. And that makes us feel connected. Right on Main Street, right near Town Hall and all that. I think we were one of the first retail shops like that to open.
But we opened up the same time that OSHA.
That's true. They had their soft opening.
The restaurant across the street opened up, and then it began after that.
Do you guys seen a lot of foot traffic down there now?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And there's so much more that's going to occur between the first building across the street from us, Town Hall Commons, and you guys know John and Chris Harrell, correct? From
I know
Hope.
I know John. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are about to open, August, the second building downtown.
Okay.
And that's going to create even more downtown foot traffic. And they're looking to have a rooftop restaurant. And I heard rumor maybe a distillery is going to go up there. They're going to have an outdoor amphitheater. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Let's go.
Uh-huh.
That's great. Did you guys notice a big spike in the new business? And did you notice when it trailed off?
We're learning about that.
You're learning about
it? I think that...
too soon to tell?
Too soon, yeah. We've only had 6 months. And we had actually the last half of the year, which ends in just a wonderful, Christmas season, which is... Everyone benefited from that. But then January, February, and March, I think, our first quarter is always a little softer. People are kind of getting over all the things they spent during the holidays and whatnot. Around the corner, we have Valentine's coming and Easter and Mother's Day. Yeah. So it's cyclical.
Do you guys decorate for all the seasons?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And the artisans all get involved, and it's a lot of fun.
Do you adapt your menu according to the seasons, like more ice drinks in the summer? Do you anticipate that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We started out with a lot of ice drinks and smoothies and that sort of thing. And that sort of started going into the warmer, hotter drinks, lattes and coffees.
Mocha lattes are probably the biggest seller.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe some local honey in there.
Mm-hmm. Working on that.
Working on a honey provider.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I was talking to a friend of ours. He came on the show who does CBD, Matt Weschler, and he said they're putting CBD stuff in K-cups. They're adding it to coffee now.
Oh, really? What do you guys think about the whole CBD thing? Are you open to a vendor that provides and grows marijuana? The good sister marijuana?
we
It's not marijuana. CBD is not marijuana.
no, it's a funny area because it's sort of like there's a lot of almost too much information, and not it's kind of hard to depict what can you use or not use of that.
Yeah.
And we're still learning about it. I think that there's been 2 people that have approached us, about carrying their product.
I
But we want
appreciate
to learn
that.
more about it.
I think that's too new for even the studies. And that's what Matt will tell you. He's actually starting a podcast called Peak City CBD. People are experiencing results with it, but it would be unethical to be like, hey, it sounds like very snake oil salesman if you're just much like in business, like if our really good month, that's not going to be our every month, like
where do you, speaking of local, and where do you draw the line with an artisan being local, if they're in Durham or Apex or Holly Springs only? Like, how's that work out?
We've had the pleasure of not having to worry about that. We actually have a waiting list. So the good problem to have is that we're struggling with space and needing enough space. But local to us is North Carolina.
It's always one of my favorite parts of the farmers market to see like the artisan wing. So I kind of love that that's what you guys really get to provide year round without having to go to the farmers market for it.
That's interesting because that's actually another wrinkle in the story that actually helped propel what we were doing now. Is that, was it 4 years ago?
3.
Beth was trying to see if we could get more artisans in the downtown farmers market. She ended up making a presentation to the town council about, we have all this food in the farmers market and it's wonderful. And they've won awards, accolades, number 1 in North Carolina.
Yeah.
But what about the artisans? Could we have a place for them? And I'm not sure all the reasons why, but it didn't work out. But it ended up, though, because of the presentation, that the chamber was assigned to come up with a artisans market on Center Street. And that started 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
And so she and Brenda Priest actually, with the chamber, put on the artisans for the first time on Center Street. And now it's become a standard. It's a traditional thing. It's another part of, how we came up with the model that we have now and how we're able to meet all the people that are involved with us now.
That's fantastic. As part of the growth process and the bumps and all the stuff we've been talking about, are there any processes you wish you would have put in place sooner?
Social media.
Yeah. That's an amazing area that is just, I think it's constantly evolving, it's changing, and we didn't realize the extent of what it takes to really maintain and keep up with that discipline.
Yeah.
And even calling it a discipline is hard because I don't even know how many facets it has exactly. I mean, when we first started, we were told Facebook and Instagram as, 2 major examples of how to communicate, with your audience.
Sure.
And now we're being told that's changing.
That's a job in itself. I mean, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep up with the social media.
And the rate at which that changes, the best practices change, it'll give you whiplash. It'll be like, it used to be right to do it this way last month, and now the thing's not even there. I can't even press the button I pressed last month. It used to be all about pay-per-click, and now it's moving in towards, now we got this new exciting avenue of how do you engage influencers? Yeah, I heard one analogy once about social media that really stuck with me, and it was using the analogy of sharecropping. And the challenges that people face with social media, and if you build so much your business on it, is that it's not your land. And if they choose to change the algorithm and you had something that was working, now it's not, you don't have any recourse. You're a sharecropper. That's why people always say things like, the things that are yours, like your mailing list, like your email list and things like that, are kind of the bulletproof way to do it. But even that, you got as many opinions as the one I just said on either side of that argument. It's tough to keep all that straight.
So true. That's so true.
I really appreciate you guys coming in and sharing. Our momentsintime.net is the website. And if you look on their website under Meet the Artists, there's a little drop-down tab. You can get an idea of all the different artists that are on there. I bet they love to share their story. That would be a great thing to come in if you happen to run into one of the artists and ask the story behind the pieces to learn that.
Well, I can tell you that we do have an event that we're working on right now. We don't have a date yet, but it's going to be a Meet the Artisan or artist event. Josh?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you'll be able to come in and talk with each and every one of them.
Although we actually already have a way for everyone to meet the artisans, because the artisans do workshops every Thursday and Sunday, which is also on our website under workshops.
Oh, what's a workshop?
Well, we have artisans that come in. And for example, we have an artist who does alcohol ink paintings, and she taught a 2-hour workshop and people went home with the painting. And we have our seamstress did a
beginning sewing
class. You bring a sewing machine in, you learn how to sew. We had another one that had to do with creating ornaments. So they got to go home with their own ornaments. And we have it right on the shop.
We also, as of last week, have the Writers Guild of Holly Springs that'll be meeting once a month in our location.
We're sponsoring them.
So if you're
donating the space for them.
If you're a local author, that's a fantastic way to get connected.
Yeah.
We should start a Holly Springs photography club or like something like that, and just walk around downtown Holly Springs. And
she said, "You should."
Yeah.
You should.
I am. I officially just did it.
It's real now.
Stay tuned.
You said it. So next time you're in downtown Holly Springs and checking out all the new awesome stuff, be sure to check out our Moments in Time. They're at 205 South Main Street. What do you guys next do? Like, what's directly surrounding it?
At the car wash. At the car wash.
There is a car wash next to us, and we're, right across the street from the OSHA restaurant and in that new building, as well as Town Hall.
I'd love you guys to come back in like a year and tell us how everything's going. Thanks again, guys. Do you guys have social media accounts?
We do.
We have a Facebook account. Right?
Everything is labeled Our Moments in Time.
All right. So check them out on Facebook. And that's probably where you can find out when that upcoming event is.
Facebook, Instagram.
Or the website, ourmomentsintime.net, correct?
.net. I used to run a blog called marketingjesus.net. And when people would ask me, why, how come you didn't do .com? The real answer was .com was taken. But I decided to make it a very spiritual thing and be like, because Jesus was, a fisherman, and if you use nets, and if it was good enough for Jesus.
Well, you know what kind of car he drove, right? You want to say a Chrysler, but the Bible says that him and his friends all went off in one accord.
Oh, yeah.
So he drove a Honda.
We love making this stuff for you. You can help us out by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. Get unstuck, tell a better story, and have a good answer to the question, what are you doing today?